This is Melissa, and today is the 24th of September, 2023. And the redux that I'm going to put up today is from February 14, 2007, Public-Private Pirate Enterprises, Sun, Stars, and Spray. And I'm putting up the first two-thirds of a talk that Alan gave that day. And what you're not going to get is the spray part. And it's very interesting if you want to go into the archives and find that and listen to him talk about chemtrails and geoengineering. It's worth listening to that last bit. But I'm not going to include that in this one. At the beginning of this talk, Alan just said, I can't keep up with the emails. And I don't think he was really complaining, and I've said that before here, but I wanted to say I love your emails, and some people will write and they want to share an idea or something about themselves, and then they might conclude by saying, sorry that this was so long, or I'm sorry, I know you're busy, I don't want to take up your time. And I just want to say that even though I run behind, and sometimes just so far behind, I really love getting your emails. And as I've said several times, this is about a small group of people, and that group are people for whom Alan's words resonate, and they carry truth and profound meaning and wisdom. And so we're a group of people who continue to learn from Alan's work and his words. And communicating with you, I don't do the social media thing where I can answer comments or engage with you like that. I did start the Twitter, but that's really just a way of, to another very small audience, putting Alan's word out and hoping that other people will share that in that forum. Now, there are a few things that are on my mind. I'll just out with them. So please keep writing, and I'll do my best to get back to you, because communicating at this time genuine feelings and emotions and observations and experiences among a group of like-minded people, that's crucial. It's critical right now, because we are into the savages on the fringes of a new civilization. So we wild savages must find each other and communicate the best way we can. Well, that brings me, before I go to the next thought, I wanted to say that in addition to just communicating with you, really some of the best ideas that I've gotten have come from listeners. So I got the idea to write about the New Age. That was a suggestion. Someone wrote me 2 or 3 months ago just mentioned the Aspen Institute, and I realized, I haven't really looked into them, and so I got to dig into the Aspen Institute and see that it was not what I thought that it was at all, but that came from a listener, and I'm going to be reading a little bit from an article today that came from a listener who sent me the link yesterday by email. So please continue to write, and if you don't hear back from me for days or weeks or even months, it isn't because I haven't seen the email or I don't care to communicate. That isn't it. So thank you. When I was talking to Neil Foster in the last Real History that I did with him, we used a piece of music that he mentioned, a song called Television's Over. And then I think it was Darren in South Africa had written me a couple of weeks ago, and he said, the internet is over. And I thought, he's really right. The internet is over. And I'll explain why I think that. Remember, for long-time listeners, that Alan said that the internet was a small window that we had. We'd do the best with it, but that window wouldn't be open for long. And I think that we are there, because what they've done is successfully, the shepherds have guided us into the pasture that we're supposed to be in, or into the pen that they want us in. And that is the way that social media works. And you really have to have, like, people will have teams who work the social media. They might have a dedicated social media producer, and that person or that member of an organization or a small team, that's the one who, does the tweeting. Or maybe they call it the Xing now. But they manage the social media presence. And I know that in the case of JP and Julie from Book of Hours, they mentioned on a talk that we did, he's just not interested in that world. He's not interested in social media. And Julie has a nice presence there, and she communicates with their listeners in that way. But I'm no longer a team, it's me by myself. And so to properly communicate with you in that forum and to extend the reach of Alan's work in that forum, it really would be a full-time job. And so I can't really use it in that way. For me, it's just when I upload to Rumble or Odyssey or Twitter, that's just me putting out Alan's work or the real history in at a different venue, a different channel. So I can see that it could be better utilized, but it's not something that I have time for. And when you reach a point where you're so, I keep saying ghetto, but when you've been so effectively ghettoized so that your voice and your message just stays in a little echo chamber, then really is not the internet over. The broad reach of the World Wide Web, but you can be sure that you're stuck on a strand or two of a giant web, and you don't really have much of a reach. But that doesn't discourage me, because Alan's message is transcendent. The things that he had to say, I think they transcend space and time. And that is another thing. I'm getting a little stream of consciousness here, I think. But that is another thing about communicating with each other. This small group of people for whom Alan's work so strongly resonates, because thoughts are energetic forms and they're incredibly powerful. So my thought going to you and your thought coming to me, that is a powerful thing. And I've witnessed that in seeing how the reach of Alan's thoughts, that shadow ban him as they would, he did have that huge impact at the time that he came out, and what they call the Patriot movement. Because the thoughts are powerful. They're powerful forms. And so, though I say that it is over, I continue doing what I'm doing, but I am, in my mind, trying to think of ways in which I want to take Alan's work and put it together in ways that might be shared more. Put it together in ways that are little bullets, if you will. I had thought this week that I would be putting up a different talk of Alan's, and I listened to it 2 or 3 times, and it was a really powerful talk. And again, the idea of that, someone had sent me 2 or 3 months ago a link to one of Alan's older blurbs, and they said, listen to this. Well, I just got around to listening to it this week for the first time in many, many years, and I thought, well, that is really powerful. But as I listened to it for the second or third time, I thought, I want to cut this talk up into maybe 10 small little pieces that I deliver in audio or video form, because he said so many profound and wise and amazing things there. I thought, if I just take this 8 minutes or this 10 minutes and make a video of that, it's the kind of thing that's like, oh wow, that's really quite a thought there. I need to share it. And so I know, the long-time listeners, that you do share Alan's work and you do talk to people when you find the receptive mind. But I too am a listener of Alan's work and a learner, and I am a student, so I'm still learning. And so I'm doing this for you, but I'm also doing it for me. And as I continue along my own journey here, then I'm thinking, well, how better can I serve his work? So look from me. I'm working on 2 different series of little videos that I'm going to put out. I don't know if they'll be redux or excerpts or what, but I'm going to do one on culture creation and a series of a documentary that was 3 parts that was done, 18, 20 years ago, called Sin Cities. And I want to break that down into smaller segments and then cover culture creation that way. And the other series that I've begun work on is taking that blurb that I was going to put up today and breaking it into small videos. So anyway, I wanted to share with you what Alan is talking about, and this is the idea of pirate kings. There's a bit of Freemasonry here, the groups, the oaths that people swear, and how this ancient system works. You haven't always had Freemasonry around, but you've had some kind of a brotherhood that has come down through time. And what Alan was talking about is the difference between legal and moral. So that, there's always a distinction. Well, they're not breaking any laws. It's legal. And he cites the movie The Devil's Advocate and said, the devil, who was a lawyer, has said that, they're building whole teams of lawyers, and this is how they conquer the world. And that always stuck with Alan. But when he's talking about how people will do things that they're not moral, but they are legal, and how we become corrupted by that, and the pirate kings who do this. And I thought of an article that came in to me yesterday, and it was from Martin Armstrong's Armstrong Economics, and he published this on the 21st of September. It's entitled Neuralink Brain Implant Trials Begin. Elon Musk's Neuralink received approval to begin a 6-year trial to study the effects of brain-computer interface, BCI. A specialized surgical robot will be used to implant the devices into participants' brains. The company's mission: create a generalized brain interface to restore autonomy to those with unmet medical needs today and unlock human potential tomorrow, because they're always there to help us. Participants in the first trial must have a disability such as blindness, quadriplegia, paraplegia, deafness, or major limb amputation. Permitting those with disabilities to live a normal life seems noble, but Musk has stated he dreams of expanding the Neuralink's availability to everyone. The non-human trials failed miserably, resulting in 1,500 dead animals since 2018. Some past employees have criticized Musk for rushing his research, but not illegal acts were committed, as it is common, if not expected, for at least some animal test subjects to die. Numerous errors could have been avoided if not for human error, according to those familiar with the studies. Okay, so right there, that's Alan's point. They didn't do anything illegal in these animal trials. But was it moral? The PRIME study and that's an acronym, short for Precise Robotically Implanted Brain-Computer Interface, a groundbreaking investigational medical device trial for our fully implantable wireless brain-computer interface, BCI, aims to evaluate the safety of our implant, N1, and surgical robot, R1, and assess the initial functionality of our BCI for enabling people with paralysis to control external devices with their thoughts, Neuralink states on its website. It would be an unbelievable feat if this device gave someone the ability to walk or see for the first time. It would make all the testing worthwhile. Musk stated himself that the chip will work. As miraculous as it may sound, we're confident that it is possible to restore full body functionality to someone who has a severed spinal cord. However, Musk has loftier goals and said that the Neuralink will be for everyone. Musk stated that he personally plans to have a brain chip installed once available. Neuralink is not beholden to shareholders as Musk owns the company outright. The company claims it will not sell data to third parties. However, Neuralink's third-party affiliates, regulatory boards, and research partners will have access. Time will tell how this 6-year trial goes, as I expect we will hear much more about the new technology once the trial begins. Now, Martin Armstrong has embedded a video, a short one, maybe 10 minutes, into the article. And what it was like a public relations event where Elon Musk spoke about Neuralink, and then he had from his team the different experts and scientists who were involved, and each team member, maybe there were 4 or 5 of them, had a minute or so to speak about their part in this work. But what was interesting to me in the context of Alan's talk that I'm putting up is when Elon Musk came out to talk about it, one of the first things, one of the fears that he wanted to allay was the treatment of the animals. So he even said something like, these monkeys, they like it. They like this game that they're playing. The reason why they like it, it's Pavlovian. When they perform, they get a treat. So every time they perform properly, they're given a treat. And then he wanted to reassure that the animals, they're well cared for, they're well treated. Well, we know that 1,500 of them died. So, that one other thing that I saw, not in this article, but somewhere else recently, was that Musk said that all of the animals that they were using were aged, so that makes it okay, right? If you want to think about situation ethics and euthanasia, well, it's okay because they were old anyway. So I thought it was a good illustration of a pirate king and the attitude that they have when they are experimenting or doing something that they want to do for ends that are exclusively for them and not for us. There is a film that came out probably about 8 years ago now. It was called Advantageous, and it's a dystopian sci-fi, low budget. I think it was done for Netflix, and there's a lot to like about it. It's a little slow moving, but it's pretty. The images are artful and rich, and there's lovely music in there, and there are nice threads and ideas about family and human relationships and emotion and yearning and loneliness and despair in a future in which people just aren't that important anymore. The woman who is featured at the center works as a kind of a spokesperson for a biotech company, and the products that the biotech company releases have to do with longevity and youth. And she's been a spokesperson for this company for a long time, and the story is that they are looking for a younger spokeswoman. And ultimately, she agrees to undergo a process that will transfer her brain, her memory, her experiences, and so forth, into the body of a younger woman. And I won't spoil that for anybody who wants to see that movie, Advantageous. I won't spoil what is going on. I'll just comment that, like with everything else, the actual technology is based on deceit. I've just shared with you Neuralink. It's there for quadriplegics and paraplegics and the blind, right? But one scene that really struck me in that film was when this spokeswoman was meeting with one of the two higher ups in the company, a man and another woman. And the woman was talking with her about change. And she said something, I'm paraphrasing it because it's been a while since I saw it, but she said, humans can only process change at the rate in which they can experience it. And things are changing so rapidly here that it is beyond people's ability to actually process the change. And that's why humans are being left behind. And I'm not going to go on and on and on about that. I'm going to hurry up and let you have Alan. But that is a pretty intense statement. And it's part of the soup of ideas in my mind right now. And my own journey of playing with Alan's materials and putting them together in new ways and finding new ways to convey his thoughts to you. Anybody, of course, is welcome to go into the archive, but you could say I'm putting my own stamp on things because I'm in my own process of learning. And the idea that things are changing so rapidly that we can't possibly keep up that's true. We've gone through the last 3.5 years, and the change has been explosive, revolutionary. And you'll catch Alan saying something in there about how they're not going to dismantle the old system until the new system is up and running, because if this was done by the elite handlers, if this was done, then everything would just fall apart. So the new system has to be in place. And this is why I am moving away from spending a lot of time in the news and just kind of steering myself in a different direction, is because I want to remind myself that this new system is already off the ground in many ways, getting off the ground in other ways. And the other little thought that I had this week about my own process here in learning and moving as things change. I was talking to my Aunt Mary in the Real History that I put up 3 weeks ago, and she was talking about flying, and what she said something about how she was terrified of the engine stalling out, but on the very first lesson, the instructor put her in the pilot's seat and then stalled the engine, and so she was able to overcome that fear right away. But then she went on to talk about solo flying, and one of the things that she had to do on this solo flight, She's flying up in the air, and then she had to touch ground and then take off again, touching down and then taking off. And she loved that process so much that she did it 6 or 7 times, and the instructor said, I thought you were never going to come down. But that image of the plane touching down and then taking off really resonated with me in terms of Alan's directive to stay above the fray, because news is the fray. What we're given, these social media ghettos, they are the fray. And I guess I like to fly. I've never flown a plane. I've never really had any desire to learn how to fly a plane, but in my mind, I like to fly. And for me, spending hours and hours and hours in the news and trying to understand all of the particulars of, especially the last 3.5 years, we've been given so much to think about. That's touching ground. And I just want to keep lifting off. And, if I have to come down and touch ground, I don't want to stay that long. And Alan talked about that in this talk. He talked about the technique that has been used down through time to keep us in our programming. So that is it for me today, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to support, and thank you for your emails, and have a great week. And there's more from me and more from Alan's work coming up.
Hi, I'm Alan Watt, and this is cuttingthroughthematrix.com and .net at the moment. I guess that's common to the net. I'm in the process of adding mirror sites, which will enable me to hopefully stay up there should any of the other ones be pulled, which can happen at any time in our wonderful free society, where we soon find out the price of free speech, depending on what we say. This is February the 14th, 2007. Please watch the site for more mirrors as I hopefully add to them. I've been terribly busy here with the emails. I can't really cope with so many of them. And never mind just getting through the average day. Doing the things you have to do, which everyone has to do. It certainly adds up. And I had no idea when I began all of this really how far it would go. In fact, I wasn't even certain if there were so many people out there who would be interested in what I had to say. We're living in a punch-drunk society, a society where we're being conditioned in an almost schizophrenic fashion, bombarded with techniques of mind control, trained still in the old-fashioned system, which served the purpose for an elite. During the industrial age, we're trained through the same training, even though we're almost post-technological, never mind post-industrial. And since most of the technology has been passed out to countries like China by design, yet we're still trained in little black and yellow school buses, the bees, to be carted off from your little mini hive, your cell, off to school. In school is taken from a school of fish. Fish all move at the same time, you'll notice when you watch minnows in little groups of them. They all seem to move at the same time, all coordinated, like an orchestra conducted by the conductor. And that's how you're trained. And you're taught to compete at school, competition. And it's all training you to get out into a workforce and compete and grab your share by any means possible and just don't go too far breaking laws. It's much more easy to be crafty and devious. If you're very devious and crafty and you join the right associations, you can get on in life. That's what all secret societies